God. Oh, hey there. My name is Suddenly Pandas, and I talk about social problems using video games as a way to educate others. And I want to talk about a problem that's been bothering me for quite some time. Think you help me out? The topic is about social problems, more specifically how disabled people are represented in video games. What you can expect to find in this video is the importance of video games as a media. 3 examples of characters with invisible disabilities along with questions for you to think about for each segment. With the final question being, be it resolved, the best for the disabled community is to have disabled characters be explicitly labeled. Oh, and a quick disclaimer. These are only questions that are only designed to help you with through these segments. There is no right or wrong answer. With all that being said, let's go into a few more housekeeping questions. Representation is defined as the portrayal of someone or something in a particular way or being of a certain nature. You may be surprised to know that there's very little forms of representation outside of traditional straight white males. It's now currently changing, with more games, movies, and shows actively trying to show more representation, such as the Golden Globes, with a more diverse panel judging the event. So how are disabled characters represented in video games? But first, what is a video game? Look, I know some of you may actually know what a video game is, and it might be a little redundant. But some people may actually not know what a video game is, and they want to be part of the conversation. So to make sure everyone is on the same page, video games are described as electronic media that provides real-time feedback to the audience's input in an interactive setting. This consists of, but does not require, an audio and visual component. Video games can take part in multiple different genres, such as ones with rich single-player stories like Until Dawn or Persona 5, or even be designed as competitive multiplayer games like Overwatch. Okay, so why video games and not movies or books? And that's a good question. Video games have become more and more popular as the media continues to grow. To give an example, the monthly active users has only continued to grow since 2017, almost doubling it in 2020 from 6.7 million to 120 million active users using the platform Steam, a popular way to play video games on the PC. In addition, the video game industry is expected to bring in more revenue than sports and the movie industry combined in 2020. Fox News reported the global video game revenue is up 20% and is expected to make $120 billion in 2020. In 2019, the movie industry only brought $100 billion, and the Major League Sports brought in $75 billion. Gaming has got to the point where players and developers are legitimizing the esports scene. For the uninitiated, esports is an abbreviation for electronic sports, video games that have gathered a community of players to play the game that they enjoy at a high level and receive large viewings and cash prizes, as well as being known as the best player of all time to ever touch the game. To simply put,
traditional sports, but video games.
Thanks, Doug. Recently, more high schools and post-secondary schools like Western and Fanshawe College are starting to invest into the esports scene and hosting regular events both on campus and against other post-secondary schools like Western's League of Legends team, going up against 31 other esports teams and landing 8th place, destroying the University of Toronto, who came in 29th, meaning Western is technically speaking the best Canadian team of 2022. Way to go, Western. Okay, so now that we understand the importance of the media, how are disabled characters treated online? Currently, there are roughly 85 games that are documented to have some topic about mental health, out of more than 10,000. To clarify, these are only games that are about mental health or have a main character with a disability. This does not count for games that are independently made. The first case, Symmetra, neurodivergent on purpose. Right? Symmetra, from the Overwatch series that I mentioned before, is a popular multiplayer game developed by Blizzard Entertainment. Periodically, the Overwatch team will create short comics that they'll post on their website, which usually takes place outside the game. And in 2016, Symmetra had her own comic, A Better World. And in one of the panels, Symmetra said, quote, "Sanjay has always said I was different. Everyone was asking where I fit on the spectrum." And this single panel sparked a young child by the name of Samuel to send a letter to Jeff Kaplan, the game director for Overwatch, for confirmation, which he did. In this letter, Jeff wrote, "It is very astute of you to notice that she mentioned the spectrum in our comic. Symmetra is autistic. She's one of our most beloved heroes, and we think she does a great job representing just how awesome someone with autism can be." This is great news. Symmetra is one of the 16 characters to ever be confirmed, at least publicly, in one of the most popular esports of all time. This is fantastic. One issue, however. This is the only form of evidence that has ever led to her being identified as autistic. No voice line, no outfit, nothing, not even a little bio on her character screen. Which means it's entirely possible that her labeling can be identified as non-canon, meaning it didn't take part of the real story that everyone understands. further, because the comic is so difficult to find, you may never even know of this piece of information in the first place. So, here are your questions. There are little to no characters like her, so why not be proud of being one of the few games to ever have a character with autism and have that be public knowledge, and not referring to having the character be on the spectrum in a niche comic book hidden away? Is it possible that Jeff only said she's autistic to Samuel so that he can feel good about his findings? If Symmetra is autistic, why not add in the game under her character description? Is this good representation, despite Symmetra doesn't have any stereotypical traits associated with autism? And finally, put yourself in Symmetra's shoes. Would you prefer everyone knowing you were autistic and people potentially treating you differently, or no one ever knowing, even those who really need to find positive ASD representation? Josh Washington. Justified villainy. Until Dawn is a great example of having a character explicitly mention that they have mental health, but also reproducing one of the most potentially and harmful stereotypes by making them the villain. Josh invites his friends over to the cabin to prank them, after his friends a year ago played a sick prank on his sister, which later caused the death of both of them. Josh would run around in the cabin dressed up as the Psycho, a killer who would chase them and put his friends into dangerous games. Like this one on screen, which has Chris with a gun and has to determine whether or not to shoot himself or his close friend. Players can find a psychiatric report stating that Josh has been diagnosed with mental illnesses since the age of 11, with the summer being identified as having strong symptoms of major depressive disorder. And when Josh finally reveals himself as the Psycho, this happens.
Josh? 1 year ago? Only guess what? They didn't get to laugh it off. No! Nope! No! They're gone! I don't know if you noticed this, Josh, but none of us are laughing. Hook, line, and sinker for every little stinker.
Josh, why are you doing this?
Yeah, don't even ask this squirrely little runt. He's got no clue. He's out of his tree.
He's definitely off his meds.
Oh, come on, you guys. Revenge is the best medicine. You're done.
Mike, he's sick.
If you're able to determine that Josh was in fact a Psycho before his reveal, Sam will say this instead.
Hook, line, and sinker for every little stinker.
Josh, your fingerprints were all over this. It was obviously you.
Oh, really? Really?
You're crying out for help, Josh. God, you wanted to get caught, didn't you?
Oh, sure. I'm totally just crying out for help. Help me! Oh, help me, help. Come on, it was just for fun. I mean, so you got a little bit of egg on your face, right? Nobody got hurt?
However, this will not change Josh's fate. He will also see vivid hallucinations of his sisters at the final chapter of the game.
No! You're dead!
It's not ready. You manipulate.
No. You are a coward.
There, gun him. Here, the one is there. Love it.
I don't take orders from you. You can't tell me what to do.
Why didn't you save us, Josh? Why did you want us to die?
I didn't want you to die. I swear.
Some of you may have noticed that Josh is under the medical model, which basically means that the onus is on Josh to be fixed so he can be rehabilitated into society, instead of society helping him. Instead of helping Josh's environment, Josh instead was given medication so he could still be part of society. Medication which didn't work. You may have also noticed that Josh falls into the disability villain trope. He's the only character in the game that has been identified as having a mental health disorder and is the antagonist. And like all disabled antagonists, he will die with no opportunity to be saved. And in fact, he's the only playable character in the game that cannot survive until dawn. He either dies in the final chapter, or in the good ending, if you call it that, becomes a monster. Now, this is a common use of mental illness in characters. This is an issue because it creates stigma around people with similar disabilities. So, here are some questions for the segment. Is Josh still a good character for disability rep, despite being the villain? Why couldn't Josh just be upset at his sister's disappearance and get revenge on his friends? Nowhere in the story did he have to justify his actions. In fact, there's already justification. Get revenge, and as a result of going too far, he dies. Is it possible to add a path in the game where Josh gets redeemed in the good ending, instead of becoming a monster? Maybe if you found out that Josh was the Psycho before his reveal. And finally, put yourself in Josh's shoes. How would you feel? What would you want? Knowing that you are the villain of the game and you have no way to change the outcome despite your pleas for change and help. And finally, Futaba. Autism done right. Futaba from Persona 5 is probably the best form of representation for autism in a very, very long time, but also not explicitly mentioned to be autistic. Throughout the game, players can get to know Futaba better by spending more time with her during the game's side segments. Through her social link and through the actions in the main story, players are able to pick up on hints that she's autistic. But like Symmetra, it is not so explicitly told to the audience that she is on the spectrum. Instead, players can only suggest that she is, and only receive confirmation through another outside source, her voice actor.
Hi, I'm Erica Lindbeck.
Who said that she was inspired by the autistic community.
Her little glasses and her hair and everything, and Atlas was amazing about giving me information, but there just wasn't a ton available. For me, I've played a lot of outlandish characters. My goal is always to make them as grounded as I possibly can. So I immediately set about trying to justify her behavior in any way that I could, like why would she react this way? That was where the whole, like, I kind of approached her like she was on the autism spectrum. And luckily some people were really thankful for it, and they thought it was cool, and like they thought the representation was cool, which obviously is a testament to Atlas and their creation of the character and everything.
The difference between Futaba and Symmetra is that she was coded as autistic, meaning he was intended to be autistic from the start. This is what is identified as coding. Coding is identified as assigning traits associated with a certain group of people without explicitly labeling said characters as members of that group, such as Ursula, who is coded as being part of the LGBTQ community. The Persona series has a common theme of tarot card readings to depict characters or monsters in the game. And Futaba's is the Hermit. This can be a hint that she's autistic because she wishes to be isolated or disengaged in social interactions, which is something she struggles with, and is a common trait for those on the spectrum. Here's a list of common traits with those with autism that Futaba shows in-game. Finding it hard to make friends or preferring to be on their own. This can be seen in the first ever time you meet Futaba. When you, the Phantom Thieves, originally meet with her, she's incredibly nervous and hides away in her room despite initiating the conversation. In fact, when the Phantom Thieves do break into her room, she even hides further in her closet, being super afraid and hiding from interactions. Even during her social link, she finds it difficult to be in open areas, like when you first interact with her in her social link at the electronics store.
There wasn't anyone I knew with me, so I panicked. Felt like my heart was gonna pop. I got so scared all by myself. Then I just sort of curled up into a ball.
Lines up toys or other objects and gets upset when the order is changed, such as the time when Yusuke plays with her toys and changes the figurines to look in a different shape and color. Not understanding social rules, such as maybe sitting in a chair properly, and having a very keen interest in certain subjects or activities. As the Hermit Tarot card suggests, it is inner reflection and attention inward. In Persona, characters of the Hermit Arcana have a more mental alignment skills, playing as a more supportive role as the intelligent one to help put everything together, which is what Futaba does. In the game, she's a world-renowned hacker, known for starting a major hacking organization. She helps you and your team remove someone who is going to reveal the identities of the Phantom Thieves, a group that the police are trying to capture. And arguably, she's the reason why the game continues past the 30-hour mark. After that, she continues to work with the Phantom Thieves, but as their navigator, helping them traverse through dungeons and even learn about the enemies they face, even providing her own buffs and even providing her own all-out attack. On a final note, you, the player, can also be in a relationship with Futaba. In fact, this is one of the only characters ever that I can think of with ASD that can be with the main character. Alright, you know the drill at this point. While she may not have the formal label of autism, is that really important? She has similar traits and is a strong character. Is that enough? Because coding comes from taking certain stereotypical traits from a group, is it possible that it can be seen as insulting to the ASD community, since she is technically not labeled autistic? Much like our previous question with Symmetra, would you be okay if someone thinking that you're autistic, we just happen to share similar traits if it means they feel welcomed? would you be comfortable playing a character with autism? Why or why not? Alright, so to recap, we learned that video games are important players in the entertainment industry, with exploding popularity and viewership, which means lots of power to shape public opinion. We also reviewed how disability is represented in 3 different video games. To start, let's look at Symmetra. She's a strong character in the Overwatch series, but there is no evidence in the game that she has a disability. It is only in an obscure comic on the Overwatch website that we learn that there's a possibility that she's on the spectrum, a fact that is confirmed at a later date by the game director Jeff Kaplan when a young player writes to inquire. While Symmetra was a hero character with no mentioned disability whatsoever in the game, Josh is a villain character with an overwhelming emphasis on his disability with explicit evidence of mental illness. But it's a horror game, right? And someone has to be the villain. At least disability is being represented in the game, right? Josh plays this part well. He's unhinged and unpredictable, laughing at one moment and crying in the next. Everything we come to expect from villains. Crucial evidence of this disability come in the form of a multiple-page psychiatric report on full display in the game. This includes details around initial referrals, disagreements over treatment, potential suicide risk, drug side effects, self-medication history, prescribed meds, including dosage, cognitive behavior therapy, and even the outstanding balance for his medical services. This is overwhelming. Let's also not forget he was diagnosed at the tender age of 11. Hopefully this doesn't happen to anyone in real life. Right? We certainly see the medical model at work, including references to Josh going off on his meds, but less emphasis on the social models, such as trauma he's experienced, or questionable friends. A reminder that his friends are not the heroes, and arguably are equally as villainous as Josh. And the reason why the story even starts is because Josh's sisters were killed after they were pushed too far on a prank. This seems to perpetuate the misconception that mental illness is directly linked with violence. And alas, this disability villain trope means that there is no hope for Josh. He either dies or becomes the monster, physically now as well as mentally. It's what we have come to expect. Lastly, Futaba, another strong character in this list. She is a strategic and intelligent, world-renowned hacker. While it's not explicitly noted that she has a disability, she is coded to be on the spectrum, with it being more noticeable in the game's side segments and during the downtime of the game. That means the game developers intentionally added certain stereotypical traits that are associated with autism, such as social awkwardness, restrictive or repetitive behaviors, and highly engaged in singular topics. Even further, the game identifies her under the Hermit Arcana, suggesting she's highly introspective and tends to look inward. And her disability is confirmed outside the game by the voice actor. That's all great, but maybe this detail will be better included in the character's bio directly. Or maybe it'll ruin it. Well, it looks like we answered every single question. Yep, not missing one at all. I don't think. Am I? I don't. Okay. So is this one. So what? Who cares? I don't know why, but I always have someone asking me these questions. So what? Who cares? These are just pixels on a screen. They don't mean anything to anyone. Maybe so. Here is your final question. Be resolved that the best for the disabled community is to have characters to be explicitly labeled. So what do you think? Do you care? Let me know in the comment section below. Again, there's no right or wrong answer. But hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like this content and you want a little bit more, then maybe suggest checking out my channel for more content like this. Right now, I have some things you might find enjoyable if you enjoy disability studies. For example, what makes a game accessible? Or you may want to check out my interview with Hacks Money, a popular competitive Smash player who made a controller to help those who are diagnosed with carpal tunnel to allow himself and many others to continue playing the game. And thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to hearing about your suggestions. My name is Suddenly Pandas, and I hope I made you think. Until next time!